I stepped into the ballroom of the Ravenshore Grand Hotel, smoothing the front of my navy dress as I searched for my daughter. It was supposed to be a celebration. Helena had worked so hard to reach this day, her engagement dinner, a moment she deserved. But the second I crossed that marble threshold, a voice drifted through the crowd with the bite of a cold blade. There she is, the scrubland widow. The words hit harder than an open-handed slap. My heart lurched. My breath caught. For a moment, I stood frozen between crystal chandeliers and strangers pretending not to stare. Heat rose up my neck, and yet my fingertips went icy. I thought about turning around and leaving the hotel entirely. I started to pivot, but then a hand closed around my wrist. Helena. My daughter leaned close, her voice low, steady, in a way that almost didn't match her 28 years. Stay calm, Mom. Tomorrow, everything changes. Her tone was deliberate, controlled. It unsettled me more than the insult. What did she know that I didn't? Before I explain the rest, I need to tell you who I was before the storm broke over my head. My name is Marianne Keller, and I've spent 62 years running a small homestead on the outskirts of Pinewind, Montana, nestled between high pines and long stretches of amber fields. My husband, Jonathan, built Keller Homestead before he died 11 years ago in a tractor accident that split my life clean in two. Since then, the land has been my responsibility, my burden, my anchor. Helena grew up loving the place. Muddy boots, cool river water, wild berries, the works. Even when she moved to Seattle for her architecture job, she came home every few months, ready to help mend fences or unclog irrigation lines without ever complaining. My other child, Aaron, moved far away years ago, but Helena, she stayed my constant. A year and some months ago, she brought home Elias Greystone, polished, charming, the kind of charming that felt too smooth, like river stones that had been worn down until they no longer had edges. He came from a wealthy Portland family and carried himself with an effortless confidence that never sat comfortably with me. I wanted to like him, I truly did. But that same evening, during dessert, he asked how many acres I owned. He asked how the titles were structured. Then he asked, very casually, if I had already arranged how the property would pass when the time came. He never asked about Helena's dreams, or what she was building in her career, or who she was as a person. Just land, ownership, future control. When I met his parents, Clinton and Loretta Greystone, the feeling deepened. Clinton shook my hand like he was appraising an antique he wasn't sure he wanted to buy. Loretta smiled, in that frozen way women do when their real thoughts are tucked behind the teeth. I should have trusted my instincts then. I didn't, and I had no idea that the worst night of my life was only beginning. Because before that ballroom emptied, before the champagne lost its sparkle, and before the lights dimmed, I would learn that my daughter had uncovered a secret big enough to destroy every smiling face in that room. The ballroom shimmered with gold light, but I felt small and out of place among people who seemed sculpted for evenings like this. Servers in white gloves drifted through the crowd, offering fragile-looking canapes on silver trays. Laughter rippled from one corner to another, polished and practiced. I stood near a tall vase of white lilies, trying to find my footing. Elias was the center of attention, of course. He looked perfectly at home in that room, greeting guests with that smooth baritone voice and shaking hands like he was already a senator. His parents stood close to him, Clinton with the rigid posture of a man who expected the world to bend to him, and Loretta wrapped in silk the color of champagne. Helena found me moments later. She slipped her hand around my arm, grounding me in a way she had done since she was little. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "I'm fine," I lied. But she read me like an open book. She always had. Her eyes moved over the crowd, stopping briefly on Elias and his parents. When she looked back at me, there was something sharp in her gaze, something new, something I could not name yet. "That comment earlier," she whispered. I heard it too. I swallowed. "From who?" She shook her head. "Not now. Just breathe. And trust me." Trust, that was the word that always came with weight for me. I trusted my late husband completely. I trusted Helena. But I hadn't trusted my instincts about Elias, and that failure felt like a bruise spreading slowly across my chest. The dinner began, candles flickering along long tables decorated with eucalyptus and soft gold runners. I hadn't touched a bite. My stomach felt like it was made of gravel. The speeches had started, Elias thanking everyone for attending, making jokes that earned tidy, polite laughter. I tried to focus on Helena. She looked lovely but distracted, her gaze flickering toward the stage, then toward her fiancé, then toward me, as if checking I was still breathing. Halfway through the evening, she excused herself and disappeared behind a side door. A few minutes later, Elias slipped away too. I didn't follow, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't want to embarrass her. Instead, I stepped outside onto the balcony. Pine-scented air drifted upward from the surrounding hills. For a moment, I simply let my lungs fill. Behind me, the ballroom doors swung open. I froze. Loretta Greystone stepped out, arms folded like a judge preparing to sentence someone. Her smile was thin, brittle. "You're not the type of woman we're accustomed to welcoming into the family," she said softly, almost kindly. "I hope you understand that." My jaw tightened. "I'm not marrying your son." "No," she replied, "but your daughter is, and that means your life, your homestead, your decisions all have an impact. Elias needs stability, predictability. Predictability. The word felt like a warning. "You have a lot of land, Marianne," she continued, "more than you seem able to manage alone." And there it was, the truth slipping from her mouth like venom. Before I could answer, the balcony door opened again. Helena stepped out, breath quick, eyes burning. "Mom," she said, voice low, urgent, "come inside, now." Because what she showed me next proved that everything about this engagement, every smile, every toast, every word, was built on a lie so deep it was already cracking under our feet. Helena guided me through a side hallway, away from the hum of conversation and clinking glasses. Her grip around my wrist was firm, almost trembling, not from fear, but from urgency. When we reached a small service corridor lined with linen carts, she finally stopped and faced me. "Mom," she whispered, her eyes bright with something fierce, "I need you to hear this." I opened my mouth to speak, but she was already pulling her phone from her clutch. She unlocked it quickly, swiped to a file, and held it out. My breath caught when I recognized the first voice. Elias. Clear, calm, professional. The tone he used in meetings. The one he used when he wanted to sound like a man with a future mapped out on blueprints and spreadsheets. 2 years, his voice said. That's all I need. Once the homestead deed transfers, and the state approves the regional expansion, we liquidate. Her mother will move to senior care, far enough away that she won't interfere. Then we take the offers. My hands went numb. I blinked at the screen, waiting for the world to tilt back into place. But it only spun harder. Another voice joined in, Clinton Greystone. His deep, calculated tone filled the hallway like a slow-spreading poison. That land is undervalued right now, he said. 28 acres on the East Ridge alone will triple once construction begins. This marriage is our fastest path to control. Don't get sentimental about the girl. Focus on the goal. Helena pressed pause. The hallway went silent, except for the distant hum of refrigeration units. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. My daughter's face softened, but her jaw stayed set. I found these 3 weeks ago, she said. I didn't tell you because I needed proof. Not suspicion, not instinct. Proof. My legs buckled slightly, and Helena caught my arm. How? I whispered. She exhaled. Elias used to sync his devices automatically to our shared home network. He forgot I could access the old folder he set up when we were planning the engagement party. One night, I was looking for seating charts, and I found the audio files. My pulse thudded painfully in my ears. She continued, voice steady. I checked everything. The metadata, the timestamps. I had a tech friend confirm they weren't edited. The betrayal sat heavy in my chest, a weight with claws. He wanted to put me in a care facility? The words tasted broken. Not just that, Helena said quietly. He wanted you out of the picture. The Greystones planned it together. They want the homestead, Mom. They want the land Dad left you. A cold shock moved through my body. Jonathan's memory, our years of work, the soil we nurtured, the riverbank where Helena used to collect smooth stones. Every piece of it suddenly felt fragile. My daughter's hand tightened in mine. "I'm not marrying him," she said, "but we're not walking away quietly either." My tears threatened, but I held them back. "What do you mean?" Helena's gaze hardened with resolve. "We finish tonight, but tomorrow we end this." Because little did I know that Helena wasn't just planning to confront Elias. She was preparing something far bigger, something that would turn an engagement celebration into an unforgettable reckoning. I followed Helena back toward the ballroom, my mind spinning so fast I could barely take in the rich laughter echoing around us. The guests were still enjoying their drinks, completely unaware that the foundation of this celebration was already cracking. I felt like I was walking through two realities at once, the glittering one everyone else saw, and the darker truth I now carried like a stone inside my ribs. "Helena," I whispered, "what exactly are you planning?" She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes were scanning the room, sharp and focused, like she was watching pieces move on a chessboard. When she finally turned to me, her expression was calm, almost too calm. "I've been preparing for 3 weeks," she said. "This isn't something we can shout across a dinner table. It has to be done publicly, cleanly, with evidence no one can dismiss." I stared at her, stunned. "Publicly? Helena, this family is dangerous." "That's why it has to be done right," she said. "Quiet accusations won't stop people like them. Exposure will." Before I could respond, the lights in the ballroom dimmed slightly. A server tapped a spoon against a glass, inviting attention for another round of toasts. Elias was already making his way to the stage, smiling with that polished confidence, adjusting his cufflinks as if he were preparing to accept an award. I felt heat rise in my chest, but Helena squeezed my hand. "Not yet," she murmured, "but soon." The speeches resumed. Guests clapped. Glasses chimed. Loretta smiled at me from across the room with the soft cruelty of someone who thought she had already won. Clinton chatted with a businessman, already discussing future opportunities that now made my stomach twist. As the final toast wrapped up, Helena leaned close. "Mom, I need to show you something else before tomorrow." "Tomorrow? What's happening tomorrow?" My voice shook. She didn't flinch. "You'll see. But so now, follow me." We slipped away again, this time heading toward the hotel's service elevator. A security guard stationed nearby nodded at Helena. Too quickly, too familiarly. I frowned. "You know him?" "Sort of," she said. "He's a friend of a friend. Someone who owed me a favor." The elevator doors opened, and we stepped inside. As the metal box rose, Helena pulled a slim flash drive from her clutch. "This," she said, "has copies of every recording." "And something else." My stomach nodded. "What's something else?" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. While searching the shared drive, I found documents Elias never meant for anyone to see. Draft transfer forms, valuations, a proposal letter he wrote to his father about how quickly they could flip the homestead for profit. My breath caught. He planned the sale before the engagement? "Months before," she said. "He never loved me, Mom. He just needed proximity." The elevator opened onto a quiet floor. Helena led me toward a small conference room. Inside, a laptop sat open on a table, already glowing with a paused video window. "This is what happens tomorrow," Helena said softly. I stared at the screen, dread and relief tangling inside me. "Helena, what are you doing?" She reached for the play button. Because the moment that video started, I realized Helena wasn't just exposing a conspiracy. She was preparing to dismantle the Greystone family in a way they could never recover from. Helena pressed play, and the video began with a shaky shot of an office. Dim, expensive, and unmistakably Greystone. The camera angle looked like it came from a hidden device, tucked behind a shelf or decorative vase. My stomach tightened as Elias walked into frame, dropping a folder onto his father's desk with the confidence of a man who believed he was smarter than everyone in the room. Clinton Greystone appeared a moment later, adjusting his tie. Irritation etched across his face. "What now?" he asked. Elias opened the folder, the preliminary valuation. "Once the state finalizes the expansion route, the Keller property jumps to 8 million, maybe 9. It's rural, yes, but the right developer will carve it up into luxury hillside retreats." My breath caught. 8 or 9 million. That number was unimaginable to me, something too large to belong to my world of irrigation schedules and livestock feed. Clinton frowned. And the deed. Still in her mother's name, Elias replied. But Helena trusts me. After the wedding, she'll be willing to restructure things for our future. She's easier to guide than I expected. That one sentence cut deeper than all the others. My daughter, who had stood by me through every storm. My daughter, whose heart was open and trusting. Hearing him reduce her to something pliable, something he believed he could mold, made my jaw clench until my teeth hurt. The video continued. Clinton picked up the documents. And the mother, she's older. Eventually, she'll need full-time care. We'll present it as an act of compassion, Elias said. A specialized facility. Somewhere far. Helena won't question it if we phrase it right. A cold wave moved slowly through my chest. Helena reached out and stopped the video before the next clip began. Her expression was calm, but her fingers trembled slightly against the laptop. I found this 2 weeks ago, she said. After I listened to the first few clips, I realized I needed more. Not guesses, not half-proof, something undeniable. You recorded this? My voice shook. She shook her head. No, someone else did. A former employee Clinton fired. He left behind a small security cam in that office before he cleared out his things. I tracked him down, and he agreed to hand over the footage. On one condition. What condition? That if I used it, it had to expose everything. Not privately, not politely, but publicly. I covered my mouth with my hand, overwhelmed. Helena, this is dangerous. I know, she said quietly, but letting them walk away with our land is worse. Letting them think they can manipulate families without consequence is worse. I sat down slowly, my legs no longer able to hold the weight of shock and fury piling up inside me. Mom, she said gently, tomorrow at the ceremony, I'm going to play the evidence. All of it. In front of everyone. Before the vows. Before anything can move forward. The room felt suddenly too small. And Elias? I whispered. Her eyes hardened. He'll think I'm walking down the aisle. He won't expect what I've planned. My heart thudded painfully. Helena, are you ready for what this will ignite? She nodded once. I'm ready for the truth. But what neither of us knew was that someone else had already learned about Helena's plan. And by morning, the Greystones would be ready to strike first. Morning came far too quickly. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Elias's voice from those recordings, cold and calculated, speaking about me like I was an obstacle to remove. By sunrise, my nerves felt raw, but Helena was already awake, already dressed, already composed in a way that unsettled me. She stood near the hotel window, staring down at the garden where the ceremony crew was setting up chairs and floral arches. The day was bright, deceptively peaceful. You don't have to go through with this, I said, stepping beside her. I do, she replied without looking away. Mom, if we don't expose them now, the next family won't be as lucky. They'll lose everything. I swallowed hard. She wasn't wrong, but she was still my daughter, and a mother's fear doesn't bow to reason. A lot. We left the room together, walking toward the elevator. Helena moved with purpose, the flash drive tucked inside a small pocket sewn into her dress lining. She had thought of every detail, too many details, as if she knew something might go wrong. Helena, I said quietly, did you tell anyone else? Anyone at all? She gave a faint smile. Just one person. Someone who knows how to keep things secure. Before I could ask, the elevator doors opened. A tall woman with short dark curls and a badge clicked to her belt stepped inside. She nodded politely. Helena's voice dropped to a whisper. That's Detective Avery Hart. She's here for safety. My breath caught. A detective? Off duty, Helena said. But she knows what's happening. She's the one who verified the employee's footage for me. If the Greystones try anything, she'll intervene. The reassurance helped, though only slightly, because when the elevator reached the ground floor and the doors slid open, I spotted something that made my stomach twist. Clinton Greystone was standing in the lobby with two men I had never seen before, large, suited, and carrying themselves with the stiffness of private security. Clinton's expression was tight, controlled, but his eyes flicked around the lobby sharply, like a wolf checking for an ambush. Helena leaned close. They know something. I stiffened. How could they? You were careful, she whispered. Someone must have tipped them off. Maybe one of their employees noticed the missing backup footage. Maybe Elias found a file he didn't recognize. I don't know. We stepped into the lobby. Clinton pretended not to see us at first. Then he approached with a practiced smile, the kind meant to conceal a threat. Helena, he said warmly. Big day. You're glowing. She didn't smile back. He turned to me. Marianne, I hope you're feeling better than last night. You seemed out of place. The insult was subtle but deliberate. I met his gaze straight on. I'm feeling clearer than ever. For the first time, I saw a flash of something behind his eyes. Concern, maybe even fear. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. We headed toward the garden path. Guests were already gathering. Taking their seats, the musicians warmed up quietly. Everything looked perfect. But beneath the flower arches, a tall black display screen had been set up. Helena's doing. Clinton noticed it too. His jaw tightened. Helena, he asked smoothly. What's that for? She didn't break stride. You'll see. What none of us expected was that Elias would make his move before the ceremony even began, forcing Helena into a confrontation that would send the entire event spiraling out of control. We were only a few steps from the garden when Elias appeared from behind a row of tall potted ferns. He moved quickly, almost too quickly, blocking our path with a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. Helena, he said quietly, can we talk alone? Helena didn't flinch. No, you can say whatever you need to say in front of my mother. His smile stiffened. He glanced at Clinton in the distance, then back at Helena, lowering his voice further. Something's off. My father says you've been acting strange. He thinks you're hiding something. Helena tilted her head slightly. Is that what he thinks? Or is that what you think? Elias exhaled through his nose, frustration flickering across his face. Look, this is our engagement day. It's not the time for games. Games? Helena repeated. You mean like planning to steal my mother's land? His jaw snapped shut. His eyes darted to the guests, settling into their seats. Don't say things like that out here. Why not? Helena asked. Feeling exposed? Enough, he hissed. Stepping closer. You're making a mistake. Detective Avery Hart, still shadowing us from a distance, subtly shifted her posture, watching, listening. Elias lowered his voice to a whisper, meant only for Helena, but I was close enough to hear. If you do anything to humiliate my family today, I swear you'll regret it. We can make things very difficult for you, for both of you. Helena didn't blink. Is that a threat? A reminder, he said. You don't know what you're getting into. I know exactly what I'm getting into, she said, stepping around him with calm precision. And I'm done letting you decide the narrative. He grabbed her wrist. It wasn't violent, it wasn't loud, but it was firm enough to make my entire body react. Before I could speak, Detective Hart stepped between them, her tone mild but commanding. Let go, now. Elias's eyes flicked to her badge. He released Helena instantly. Who the hell is she? He muttered. Helena didn't answer. She just kept walking toward the ceremony space, her posture tall and steady. I followed her, my heart pounding, aware of Elias just a few steps behind us, seething silently. The garden was filling quickly. Guests were adjusting programs on their laps, admiring the floral arch, taking photos of the stunning setup. They had no idea that the entire structure of this wedding was about to collapse. Helena walked straight to the display screen and checked the connections. The flash drive remained hidden in her dress, but her plan was set. She reached into her pocket and tapped a discreet remote key she'd clipped inside her sleeve. A soft beep confirmed the system was armed. Elias approached again, but this time Clinton intercepted him first, grabbing his son's elbow. They spoke in low, urgent voices. Even from a distance, I could see panic beginning to form in Clinton's expression. Helena leaned close to me. Mom, once I start this, don't move from your seat, no matter what happens. Fear pulsed through me, but I nodded. I trust you. Helena turned toward the aisle as the music began to play. Guests rose from their chairs. Everything looked picture perfect, except nothing was perfect. Not anymore. Because just as Helena took her first step toward the altar, someone in the crowd shouted her name, stopping the ceremony before it even began, and turning every head toward a new threat we never saw coming. Helena had only taken a single step down the aisle when a voice cut through the music. Helena, wait! The guests turned in unison. The musicians faltered. A ripple of confusion washed across the garden. A young man, maybe in his early 20s, pushed his way through the back row, dark hair, nervous eyes, clothes too formal for comfort. He looked terrified and determined at the same time, like someone running toward a fire he knew might consume him. Helena froze. Elias's shoulders tensed. Clinton muttered something sharp under his breath. Loretta stood slowly from her seat, her expression tightening as she tracked the young man's approach. Detective Hart shifted slightly closer to Helena, ready for anything. The young man stopped a few feet from the aisle, breathing heavily. "Helena, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how else to reach you." Helena's brow furrowed. "Do I know you?" Before he could speak, Clinton strode toward him, grabbing his arm with the silent fury of a man trying to prevent an unexpected explosion. "You," Clinton hissed through clenched teeth. "You need to leave, now." But the young man yanked his arm free. "No, not until she hears the truth." The guests leaned forward, murmuring. I felt my stomach drop. Another truth? Another secret? Elias stepped forward, his expression tightening. "Dylan, stop. This isn't your business." Dylan. The name hit me immediately. He must have been the former employee Helena mentioned. The one who left the hidden camera. The one who gave her the office footage. But why was he here? Helena approached him cautiously. "Dylan, what truth?" His eyes darted between her and the Greystones. Fear etched itself across his face. But he swallowed hard and spoke anyway. "They've done this before." A wave of shocked whispers swept through the crowd. Dylan continued, his voice trembling. 3 years ago, they targeted another family. Same plan, same setup. They pressured the daughter into a rushed engagement, tried to take control of her father's business. When the father refused to sign the documents, they threatened him. He had a stroke a month later, under suspicious circumstances. Helena's face drained of color. Detective Hart stepped closer, her voice level. "Are you willing to give a formal statement?" Dylan nodded vigorously. "Yes, I already have, but I didn't know if it was enough. When Helena contacted me for the footage, I thought she already knew everything. She didn't. She was only seeing part of it." Clinton finally snapped. "You little parasite," he spat. "You think anyone will believe the word of a disgruntled ex-employee? You were fired for cause." Dylan squared his shoulders. "I was fired because I found the recordings and wouldn't delete them." Gasps from the crowd. Elias ran a hand through his hair, face pale. Loretta covered her mouth with a trembling hand. Not from guilt, I suspected, but from the realization that their careful facade was burning fast. Helena looked at Dylan, her voice steadier than mine would have been. "Why now? Why today?" "Because," he said, "after I gave you the footage, they came after me. I thought I could handle it alone. I was wrong. My heart pounded hard enough to hurt." "Came after you how?" He didn't answer with words. He lifted his sleeve. Purple bruises covered his forearm, some old, some fresh. The garden erupted with gasps. Detective Hart's eyes darkened. "Who did this?" Dylan looked at Clinton, at Elias, then back at Helena, both of them. And before anyone could react, Elias stepped forward, not to deny it, not to defend himself, but to make a move so reckless and desperate that the entire ceremony descended into chaos. Elias stepped forward so suddenly that several guests flinched. His face was tight, his eyes sharp, with a kind of panic I hadn't seen in him before. Not the polished charm, not the rehearsed ease. This was desperation, raw and unhidden. "That's enough," he snapped, pointing at Dylan. "You don't know what you're talking about." Dylan didn't back down. "I know exactly what I'm talking about." Elias lost whatever grip he had left on his composure. He lunged forward. Not toward Dylan, but toward Helena. Detective Hart reacted instantly, moving between them with surprising speed. "Step back, Elias." But he didn't stop. He kept moving, his voice rising, cracking with frustration. "Helena, listen to me. He's lying. All of this is being blown out of proportion. We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix," Helena said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut cleaner than any shout could have. Elias reached for her again, not violently, but with the familiarity of someone trying to reclaim control. His fingers brushed her arm before Detective Hart grabbed his wrist and twisted it away with firm precision. "Do not touch her again," she warned. A murmur of shock swept across the garden. Phones appeared, recording. Guests who had expected a picturesque ceremony were now watching a confrontation unravel in real time. Elias tore his wrist free from Detective Hart's grip and spun toward Dylan instead. "You ruined everything." Dylan didn't move. He stood as if he had already made peace with whatever would happen next. Clinton pushed past the first row of chairs, fury shaking through every step as he made a beeline for the group. "Elias, enough," Clinton barked. "We leave, right now." "No," Helena said. "You're not leaving." Clinton stopped mid-stride, his glare settling on her. "This is not your decision to make. It is when you're trying to scam my family," she replied, "and when you put your hands on a young man who tried to do the right thing." Clinton laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Do you really think anyone here will believe the word of a boy with a grudge and a woman desperate to feel important?" Helena lifted the flash drive from her dress and held it up between two fingers like a match ready to spark. "They'll believe the audio," she said. "They'll believe the video. And they'll believe the bruises." Loretta finally broke. "Helena, please," she pleaded, voice cracking. "You don't understand. We needed that land. You have no idea how serious this is." "Serious?" Helena repeated. "You mean serious enough to manipulate me? To harm Dylan? To plan to force my mom into a facility?" That last part pushed something inside me. I stepped forward beside my daughter. Clinton scoffed. "No one was forcing anyone anywhere." Dylan shook his head. "You told Elias it was the only way." Elias stiffened as if struck. Clinton's eyes widened with sudden dread. For the first time, I saw genuine fear replace arrogance. Before he could formulate a denial, the garden speakers crackled. A soft, unmistakable chime. The display screen behind the altar lit up. Helena hadn't touched anything. Detective Hart hadn't touched anything. Dylan hadn't touched anything. Someone else had activated the system. A distorted audio clip began to play. Elias's voice filled the outdoor space, amplified above 100 stunned faces. "We'll push her out. Once we have the deed, she won't matter." Helena's eyes widened. "That's not the clip I cued," she whispered. I felt my heart seize. If Helena didn't trigger it, then who did? Because the person who stepped forward from behind the equipment, calm, collected, and holding a small controller, was the last person any of us expected to be involved. From behind the equipment table stepped a woman I had seen only once before, briefly, the night of the engagement dinner. She had been clearing plates then, blending in with the hotel staff. Nothing remarkable about her at first glance. Now she looked different. Her uniform was gone. She wore plain clothes, simple and neutral. Her hair tied back, eyes sharp, purposeful, holding a small wireless controller in one hand. Helena stiffened beside me. "Who are you?" The woman didn't flinch. "My name is Rowan Hale." Clinton's face drained of color at the sight of her. Loretta took a stumbling step backward, nearly knocking over a decorative lantern. Elias whispered, "No, not her." Rowan lifted the controller slightly. "Yes, me." The guests shifted uneasily. Some were filming, some whispering, some frozen. Detective Hart's posture changed immediately, alert, assessing. "Rowan Hale, you're the whistleblower from the Greystone case 2 years ago." Rowan gave a single nod, the one they pretended didn't exist. My pulse quickened. "That case was dismissed, wasn't it?" "Buried," Rowan corrected calmly. "Covered up with hush money, falsified statements, and a pressure campaign that nearly ruined my life." The audio clip continued playing behind us, Elias's voice echoing through the garden. Rowan didn't turn it off. She walked slowly toward the center of the aisle, speaking to Helena, not the crowd. "I didn't come here to sabotage you. I came because you needed backup stronger than one flash drive." Helena stared at her. "But how did you know about my plan?" Rowan's eyes softened, just briefly. "Dylan came to me 2 nights ago." Dylan stepped forward hesitantly. "I didn't want to involve her, but I didn't know if I'd make it here today. They knew I talked." Clinton snapped. "He's lying." But Rowan didn't even glance his way. "They sent someone after Dylan, and when I learned what Helena was planning, I knew the Greystones would try something worse." Elias raked a hand through his hair, panic quickly replacing anger. "You don't understand." "No," Rowan interrupted sharply. "I understand perfectly. You lied, manipulated, threatened. just like your family always has. The guests were no longer murmuring. They were silent now, absorbing every word. Clinton pointed at Rowan, his voice booming. You have no right to be here. You are a disgraced former employee with a vendetta. Rowan stepped closer, unshaken. You forged signatures. You fabricated documents. You paid off a judge to bury an inheritance fraud case that your company initiated. And now you're trying to steal a homestead from a widow who never harmed you. Her voice didn't rise. She didn't shout. She didn't need to. Detective Hart pulled out her phone and began recording. Everything you're saying. Can you prove it? Rowan held up a small black case. Every piece of evidence you'll need. Originals, certified, unedited, and notarized statements from 2 of Clinton's former partners. Clinton actually stumbled backward, his control slipping for the first time. Loretta whispered, "This can't be happening again." Rowan finally turned to Helena. "You already had enough to expose them. But now they can't wriggle out of this with charm, threats, or checks." Helena swallowed, her voice barely audible. "Why help us?" Rowan looked toward the homestead's photos on the floral display. "Because your mother reminds me of my father, and I failed him. I won't let them take someone else's legacy." Elias stepped forward one last time, face crumbling. "Rowan, please, don't do this." She met his eyes with quiet finality. "Elias, you already did this." And before any of us could react, the display screen flickered again, revealing a final recording neither Helena nor Rowan had ever seen, one that would shatter the last illusion of who Elias really was. The display screen flickered, and suddenly a new video began. Grainy, handheld footage from inside the Greystone estate. Elias appeared first, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him, a man in a suit whose face was just out of focus spoke quietly into a phone. The tone of the conversation made the hairs on my neck rise. "They'll never see it coming. The transfer is finalized by next month. Keller will think it's all for love, not for gain," the man said. Elias laughed softly. "Exactly. She trusts me. The mother trusts me. Everything will be mine by spring." The camera angle shifted, catching him in a way that Rowan immediately recognized. "This is it," she whispered. The confession he thought no one would ever hear. I felt my chest tighten. Every word was proof. Every movement on that video exposed not just Elias, but the Greystone family's long-standing pattern of manipulation. I saw Helena stiffen beside me, her hand clutching mine as if it could anchor us both against the shock of it. Dylan's eyes widened. "That's beyond what I expected. I thought we had enough with the audio and documents." Rowan didn't take her eyes off the screen. "This," she said softly, "will leave no doubt. Nothing they can say, no one to defend them. This is total exposure." Elias froze as the video played. He realized the recording wasn't a secret anymore. Not only were the guests watching, but the evidence was now irrefutable. He pressed his hands to his face, disbelief etched across every line. Clinton grabbed his son's arm, shaking him. "Turn it off. Stop it now," he hissed. But no one could stop it. Rowan had locked the system remotely. The screen and audio were completely under her control. The crowd leaned forward. Gasps, murmurs, and the occasional whispered, "Oh my God," filled the air. Some guests lifted their phones, filming. Others simply stared, mouths open. Every step of the Greystones' deception was being laid bare. Helena finally spoke, voice strong. "This ends today. No more lies. No more manipulation. No more threats." Elias turned to her, pleading, "Helena, please, this isn't necessary. We can—" "No," she interrupted, her eyes flashing. "You made your choice. You revealed who you really are." I felt tears prick my eyes, but I held them back. My daughter was right. The Greystones' empire of manipulation couldn't survive this. Not when every secret, every threat, every calculated betrayal was now public. Detective Hart moved calmly toward Clinton and Elias, her presence firm and unyielding. "You're both going to answer for this," she said. "Anyone here recording this is considered a witness. You will be held accountable." Clinton's confident mask shattered. Loretta's face had gone pale. The people who had once exuded control and power now looked helpless. And for the first time, I saw Elias not as a charming fiancé, but as the desperate, selfish man he truly was. Helena stepped toward me, Mom, it's over, she said, her hand on my shoulder. We did everything right. They can't touch us now. I nodded, unable to speak, my chest tight with relief and awe. For decades, I had worked this land. I had feared losing it to outsiders, to opportunists. But today, my daughter and her allies had protected it, not just with words, but with truth. And as the Greystones were led away in stunned silence, I realized this was not the end. One final twist remained, one that would cement the family's legacy and reveal an unexpected ally we had never anticipated. The Greystones were escorted away, flanked by Detective Hart and 2 uniformed officers. Their faces were a mixture of disbelief, fear, and fury. But they were powerless. The evidence had spoken, the garden had witnessed it all, and no one could undo the truth now. I exhaled slowly, my shoulders dropping for the first time that morning. The weight I had carried, the fear of losing the homestead, the worry for Helena, the anxiety of being deceived by someone we had trusted, finally began to lift. The guests murmured among themselves, some applauding, some shaking their heads, all trying to process the chaos that had erupted in what was supposed to be a serene engagement ceremony. Helena turned toward me, eyes softening. Mom, we did it. We really did it. I reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. You were incredible, Helena. I don't even know what to say. She shook her head, smiling faintly. No speeches today, just relief. Then Rowan Hale stepped forward. Calm, collected, almost serene. Everything is secure now. All recordings and documentation are backed up with the district attorney. The Greystones won't be able to manipulate anyone ever again. Justice will follow its course. I looked at her in astonishment. You did all this for us? She nodded. I owed it to the families they've hurt before, and to you, Marianne. I could see the determination in your daughter, and knew she needed a shield. I'm just glad it worked. Detective Hart gave a small nod of agreement. The DA has already been briefed. They will press charges. Everything you saw today is on the record. There's no room for denial. Helena finally relaxed, allowing herself to lean into me. I was so scared, Mom, but having you here, I knew we could face this. I brushed a hand across her hair, remembering her as a little girl running across the meadow, fearless and determined even then. You've grown into someone stronger than I ever imagined. Today, you protected more than just yourself. You protected this family. For a moment, the sun caught the blossoms of the floral arches and made them gleam, as if the world had finally recognized our victory. The garden, once filled with tension and fear, now felt like a sanctuary, a place of truth and healing. Months passed. The Greystones faced full prosecution. Their schemes unraveled entirely. The homestead remained ours, protected, thriving, with Helena and I restoring every corner that had been threatened. Dylan returned occasionally to help with the land, becoming a trusted family friend. Rowan kept in touch, an unexpected ally whose guidance continued to ensure the legacy remained intact. Helena and I celebrated quietly, under the wide Montana sky. No grand ceremony this time, just family, friends, and the land that had survived the storm. Laughter returned to the farmhouse, warm and unhurried. We planted new crops, repaired old fences, and every day, every action became a testament to truth, courage, and resilience. I looked at my daughter one evening, watching her smile at the vineyard rose we had nurtured together. She had faced betrayal, danger, and deceit, and she had emerged victorious. The legacy of our family, the home my late husband and I had built, had survived because of her courage and integrity. And I realized, finally, that no deceit, no scheming outsider could ever take from us what mattered most: our family, our trust, and the land that held our history. The lesson was clear: trust instincts, stand for truth, protect what is yours, and never underestimate the strength of those who love what is real.